The Alldus podcast is brought to you by Alldus International, supplying your expert AI and digital transformation staffing needs across the US and Europe. Today, you are listening to our ServiceNow series, where we interview the best and brightest of the industry to share their story, advice, and views on the exciting world of ServiceNow and digital transformation.
Hello everybody, it's Mark Kelly here, Chief Customer Officer and co-founder of Alldus. I hope you're doing really well today. As part of our ServiceNow podcast series, I'm very happy to welcome Nick Puleo. Nick is Senior Director, Enterprise Architecture and Software Solutions at Tierpoint. Nick, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
Hey Mark, thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
So Nick, you're a 16-year veteran of Tierpoint and its acquisition, and you're overseeing application architecture for the company's critical business and operational systems. Tell us a little bit about some of the work that you're doing with your team and some of how you're helping within the ServiceNow platform.
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So been at Tierpoint for 16 years. We are a company that was created through acquisitions. We've got almost 40 data centers nationwide here in the United States. And my team, there's multiple teams underneath it. You mentioned enterprise architecture, so we oversee all of our applications and integrations and data. And then we have a software development team, and of course, a team specializing in ServiceNow. And really, all of my teams work together and contribute to all those efforts. So right now, we've been on the ServiceNow platform for about 2 years. I think we've gotten over the initial learning phase with it. And now we're really kind of settling in and finding, where we want to go next with it. So that's kind of what we're focused on, at least from the ServiceNow side of things, is what's next for us with the platform.
Can we go into a little bit more detail about Tierpoint and your kind of roles and responsibilities within that, and then if we kind of then move into why we believe that ServiceNow is the platform of choice for your organization?
Yeah. So like I said, my role at Tierpoint really is all-encompassing around our application architecture, top to bottom. So that includes order to cash, operational systems, things like that. So ServiceNow, right, for us currently, it's a key component of our what we call operational systems. So it's the systems that support the services that our customers purchase. It's our ticketing system, and it's our internal IT management system. So it runs a lot of those components. So for us and the way my team works with the platform, we're building tools within it or workflows and capabilities that support those components of the business. And then from the broader team perspective, we are always looking to integrate our CRM data, our sales data, those processes, and as they flow into the platform to be that hub. So it's pretty exciting because we get to see the entirety of the business end to end, top to bottom. And ServiceNow, it definitely has unlocked quite a few capabilities for us. And every year they're just adding more and more functionality and things that everyone's like, we want to do that, we want to do that, we want to do that. So,
and when you look at the benefits to the business and the implementation and the journey that you went on, can you kind of talk us through some of them, that for the novices listening in, like how does this make people's lives better or more efficient or improve the experience?
So I can talk about why we chose ServiceNow, why I got brought into our organization, and some of the areas we hope to see those benefits and some that we are getting. So said earlier, Tierpoint's kind of this a company that was made up of acquisitions. Most of that wrapped up around 2017. Through acquisitions, you tend to have application sprawl, right? You bring in all these companies together. They all have their own ticketing platform. They all have their own notification platform, their own CMDB or whatever it might be. So we had a lot of that, and we said, well, none of these are really major players in the market. We're big company now, right? We need something that's going to help us scale. And so we had a formal process where we went out and we looked at ITSM platforms, we looked at customer service platforms, and specifically for us, the big thing was CMDB, right? Something that was a leader in the CMDB space. So we went out, we had a bake-off, and ServiceNow came out ahead pretty easily. It was a clear leader in the space. Like I just said too, it's not just about the core components of it, but where they're expanding to as well. HR, sales, like there's other areas that we're like, well, if we build this as the foundation, then it gives us an opportunity to grow. So what we kind of hope to achieve in the areas that we're trying to, leverage those capabilities are out of the box workflows. There are tons and tons of workflows you get out of the box with it, built around ITIL best practices and things like that. And there were things that up until that time, while we were executing on, it wasn't codified, right? It wasn't written into the core workflows of what we were doing day to day. So you tend to have process drift and data drift and everything else. So that's the benefit we're starting to yield from the platform, is that we can measure ourselves in a more consistent way and everything else. But there's definitely more opportunities to grow and leverage more.
So if you let me kind of dive into the weeds a little bit. When we look at the initial response from stakeholders regarding the implementation, how did you manage to roll out? Inevitably, there's going to be roadblocks, and then changing the process across the board, because the reality is people don't necessarily like change.
No, from the get-go, change management, organizational change management, was like a key pillar for us. So we got that from the get-go, and it was always in the back of our minds through the whole thing. Like when we made an architectural decision or a technical decision or a process decision, we're like, okay, well, what are we really doing today? How far of a journey is that to tomorrow, right? And what's the impact going to be on our end users, whether they're internal or external, right? They're both being supported through this platform. So yeah, it was definitely a big hurdle, and I would say that for any company that's going through this journey, it's not going to be weeks or months after you're on the platform, but it's ongoing. We're 2 years later here. I would say we're undergoing another mini change with the platform, just in terms of how we support it and the level of effort we put in and our governance on it and everything else. Like it's a big platform. There's a lot of components you need to take into account.
Yeah, so the cheese is always moving, right? So it's always something
Yeah.
new, innovations, and that's kind of part of the journey. When you look back and you even to the present day, how important is having the right people ready for the implementation? And what makes a winning team? And when you look at the resources that played a part in the success of the implementation, what was important?
That's a good question. I would say, given the size of the project, having a good partner is key, and we were fortunate enough to have a good implementation partner. In this, they were top tier, recommended by ServiceNow. They gelled really well with our teams. They had a process. They came in with a process of like, this is how you implement ServiceNow. Here's our framework. Let's go through this and go through the exercise. So all of that really helped us, I think, be successful. But I also think you need to, I said we gelled at several levels. You have to have, your architects have to be able to talk to their architects, your technical resources to your process people to their process people. If you get that top to bottom alignment during implementation, so they're able to translate really what your needs are and translate to you what the platform can do, right? Which is just as important, then I think you can be successful. And that's how we were successful in it. Top to bottom alignment between those teams, in our teams. I mean, that even includes senior leadership. They would bring in their senior leadership to talk to our senior leadership. They would make sure that they were aligned and they understood, and those messages were consistent then throughout that.
I like that keyword, alignment.
Yeah.
is getting it right, because it's not a perfect science, but you're kind of working towards that kind of congruency, having people on the same page and kind of wrapped around that vision. When you look back pre-implementation, what advice do you think you'd share with your younger self, and for people listening in to the episode now and future ServiceNow users, what kind of takeaway points would you share?
There's a couple, and one of the things that kept coming up for us during implementation is balancing configuration versus customization. Now, being one of my teams is a software development team, customization, building stuff is kind of in our DNA. But even above and beyond that, understanding what that actually means in the platform, what a configuration is versus a customization. I don't know if you can learn that beforehand. It may be one of those things that, like, you've got to get the battle wounds to understand it. And like a good example of that is we added a state to the core task record within ServiceNow, which my experience with other applications, you're adding statuses or states to things, like that's just part of the show. But in ServiceNow, because of all those out of the box workflows that exist that leverage those states, we broke a whole bunch of stuff, didn't realize it. Right? You short circuited out of the box workflows and things like that by introducing something it didn't expect. So that's definitely a big thing. I would say if you're bringing ServiceNow into your organization and you don't have any experience on staff, try to hire that in. We had hoped to just learn from the ground up, and we are. But I think having one or two resources that have those battle wounds, right, from previous things, it will give you a big leg up and can help the rest of your staff learn how to use the platform and maybe head off a few of those mistakes. And I think finally, just, we talked about resources and leveraging partners and things like that. Definitely leverage a partner if you can. Listen to what they have to say. Listen to your ServiceNow, your technical account manager, right? The advice that they have to offer is invaluable. And just use the resources that are out there. Big community of information. You Google something, you're going to find it in the ServiceNow community most likely. So,
yeah, just not reinventing the wheel, Nick.
Exactly.
Yeah, really, really good advice. And you could see that you've kind of gone on this journey. And I think anyone listening who's getting ready to go on this journey or is continuously going on a journey, there's quite a bit of nuggets of information that's there. So this has been particularly insightful for me. You've been listening to the Alldus podcast, part of our ServiceNow series. I've had a chance to speak with Nick Puleo. Nick is the Senior Director, Enterprise Architecture and Software Solutions at Tierpoint. Nick, thanks very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Alldus podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. We are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any Android podcast of choice. You can also head over to our website, www.alldus.com, to listen to more podcasts, view our open roles, and stay up to date with industry news. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more great episodes coming very soon.